Hey.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Friday live stream, Galvo edition. How's everyone this morning?
Best day ever.
We have Mr. James from British Columbia out of Langley, Abbotsford. Are you in Abbotsford or Langley?
Right now I'm in Abbotsford, but on any given day I could be in a different city.
Okay, awesome. We got Steven. Steven, say hi to everyone. Steven's our technical director. And we got Don here also behind the laser cam in our brand new tech corner. We're still working on building a nice cage for the tech corner, guys. So thank you everyone for joining. This is going to be a Galvo marking automation webinar. The idea, I mean, if you guys know anything about Trotec, we sort of are, what's the word? What we excel at is these kind of lasers. And I'm just gonna pop over my screen here. So what we call flatbed lasers. So cutting, engraving on a flatbed, basically. That's kind of what we excel at. But we also excel at Galvo lasers. So something that are fast-moving part markers. I have a whole bunch of videos on here as well, and we're going to actually show you guys a demo on the software, on how it works. The automation component is going to be more, I guess Stephen, if you could give us a quick outline. I mean, we're going to be going with the barcode scanners. What kind of automation are we getting into here?
Well, to show automation at a very basic level, a barcode scanner is very useful because it's a component that's commonly used in industry. So showing a barcode scanner and the simplicity in program flow is a nice introduction. It goes way deeper than this, especially when we're talking and receiving communication from PLCs, etc. But this is a nice introduction to those that have these machines. That's why we have a 300 here, not one of the bigger ones, that they can also be automated to a certain extent. So it's a nice intro.
Perfect. And I know we did one with James a month ago. If you guys check out on our YouTube channel, James kind of did a very basic run through of the SpeedMarker 300. And James, I mean, you've been working with Galvos for quite some time. I mean, what can you tell us about the type of customers that buy these types of machines?
Well, in my experience, I mean, it's so varied because BC isn't the hugest manufacturing market, but we have some really nice sort of small scale manufacturing. And where I like to thrive anyway is that I have a small SpeedMarker 300, and I've built a completely mobile rig that I can take from place to place. And so dropping off a SpeedMarker in a small manufacturing facility, not unlike the video you're watching here, I see these things, being placed at the QA stage or QC of a small manufacturer, and on the very last step when they're getting their products ready to ship, we're placing all the information and the laser is taking all the information from their ERP system, placing it onto the actual product itself. So we're not just doing tags like we're seeing here, but we're placing code, and we're placing serial numbers and barcodes and UL labels, as you see here, directly on the product just before shipping out. And the thing that most of my customers love about it is that the user themselves doesn't need to know anything about the laser. They're the QC people. They know about their product. They scan the barcode of the work order. They place the part in the machine, and boom, it's done. So small, medium manufacturers, and then of course with the small Galvo heads, just the heads themselves. I mean, these things can be placed on pretty much any industrial robot or some kind of automated indexer,
like a conveyor system or something like that.
Yeah.
And Stephen, what about you? I mean, your experience with customers that use these kind of machines, is it similar to James's? I mean, I know James actually sells to jewelry makers with these kind of machines as well, not just the industrial automation. But what about you, Stephen? What do you have?
Well, the difference with what I have experience with is the skeletal or OEM systems, or what now Trotec now calls the FL50. So it's the machine without the red enclosure, and those are used into and integrated into existing lines, where there can be expiry date marking on a conveyor belt of some sort. I've had experience with a portable system that we built a system that could be moved around and used at a factory or work sites that would not necessarily be in the same place. But and different setups, different mounting options, and different materials, plastics, metals, automotive industry, food industry, medical industry, big time. So it's similar to James, yeah, but different in that we sold more of the FL50s or the skeletal systems and integrated those into an existing line versus the ones that I've seen mostly here in Canada, which is the ones with the red body in them, the red body with a safety
Perfect.
hazard.
So if you guys have
Can I
any
ask
questions,
a question, Lev?
yeah. Oh, sorry, Don. Go ahead.
So forget, maybe my timing is perfect then. I wanted to ask of both James and Stephen. So working with our lasers for the last couple of years, maybe this is just a pattern that I've seen, but is it true that, like, oftentimes if a customer comes in and buys, let's say, a Speedy, it seems to me that, let's say, 3/4 of the time that represents, kind of the main machine in their production, or perhaps even the only machine in their production. Whereas with the SpeedMarkers, it seems, sort of speaking to what Stephen was just talking about, oftentimes the SpeedMarker customer seems to be somebody where they're integrating it into a production line that already exists. Is that something, like, am I off base there, James, in saying that, like, usually the SpeedMarker customer tends to be somebody where they're adding it as like a convenience or a better way to do what they're already doing, as opposed to it making, sort of the majority of their production line out of the one laser machine, let's say?
As engravers, yes. So, slowly and surely, as this technology gets to become en vogue with the engraving industry, people are now seeing the need for a quick metal marking machine. So let's say you're an engraver and you've been getting a call for a ton of jewelry and pens and very high ticket items, luxury items. You see here on the screen there was a red projection of the actual engraving before the engraving actually got done. Now, in the past, somebody gives me a Rolex watch. Now I'm going to say, yeah, no, go somewhere else. So I don't even want to touch your Rolex watch. If I screw that thing up, the back plate of the Rolex watch costs more than I make in a week, I'm sure. If I had a SpeedMarker back in those old days, I'd have no problem taking a $10,000 piece of jewelry item and marking the back of it. You see the projection of the engraving before you're going to do it. You can place it, move the projection around on the actual part to get your setting right, and then just hit go, and it engraves it instantly, right in front of the customer in some cases. And so for the engraving industry, sure, this definitely wouldn't probably be your first laser machine, but for the industrial marking people, yeah, this is usually their personal.
Don, also to answer your question, we have, even guys like this, like Trophy Guys, he's out of Ontario, and I'm not sure if he has a flatbed Speedy, but he has a SpeedMarker, and all he does is tumblers and these metallic cups on the rotary. So there is a rotary to the Galvo machine as well. And James and Stephen, like, what in terms of deep engraving, in terms of actual getting, I guess that's important to a lot of customers, that you won't be able to scratch it out. It can withstand the elements. James, I think you have customers that have it on oil rigs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, just for marking, not oil rigs, but people who work on on the overseas industrial electric market. But if you're talking deep engraving, I mean, this is something the Galvo is good at. When you're if you need to burn, halfway through a stainless steel tag, let's say, this is something that's absolutely possible on a SpeedMarker. I would think so, right, Stephen?
Yeah, because it's got the repetition. So that's where it's strong, because the repetition rate is so fast.
So you can actually, I've seen it mark like horizontally, vertically, and kind of in between, right? You can control that. I mean, I'm not an expert in these machines, but maybe you guys can talk about how does the marking different from like a flatbed that goes just side to side?
That's a Stephen question.
Yeah, well, it works actually in exactly the same way. It's just that the beam is steered over a much shorter area within the scan head of the laser, but you still have a scanned X and Y axes for left and right and top and down. It's just, instead of having a axis like you have on a flatbed, an X axis and a Y axis which has a size to it, this is in that compact area in the scan head. So it's actually identical, and then it has much longer focal lengths. So you get that effect of flying optics, but internally it's actually no different. But because it works over such a small area, the mirrors, the technology in the head is very light, so we can move very fast, much faster than what we could with a flatbed, which is constrained a lot by weight and mechanical constraints in general.
We have a good question here from Christian. Are the laser equipped with XYZ scanner?
So it's got the X and Y scanner. The Z scanner is mechanical on the machines, but we've produced a new machine. The customer can have a look into that, but it's the SpeedMarker DS, which stands for dynamic shifting, and that has what we could consider a Z scanner. So we have a lens in the scan head or fitted to the scan head that can alter its focal position dynamically, as opposed to a mechanical system. So that opens up a huge scope of options. But in general, the standard machines have an X and Y, and then a mechanical, well, it's electronic, but it's a mechanical Z axis. The laser physically moves. And then we have mechanical or physical X and Y axes as well. So the laser can move left and right, and front and back in some cases, depending on the specification that you've ordered. So we can have multiple axes, and so you can think of a machine that has 2 X's and 2 Y's, for example. So the options are limitless.
Interesting. James, just before we go into the demo, you've actually cut stainless steel with these machines. I know this is not the primary focus, but I mean, I know your jewelry guys actually use this. Can you explain a little bit about cutting the metal?
Yeah. So there's what we call a wobble setting in here, which actually, as it's cutting, it's actually spinning. You can't really see it in the frame rate, but it's actually spinning.
So it's not a line; it's actually a little. It's like a wobble line,
little micro swirl at about I don't know 0.02 of an inch or less. And we can change the power and the speed of the laser to be able to cut through very thin material. Now, in the past, I always got in trouble for saying that this can happen. But as I see these people, with their machines working very hard and for a long time, 6-7 years of doing this, I'm convinced that it's definitely possible. And my jewelry guys really enjoy it because they're letting the robot do the work, getting the parts cut, and in the kind of detail that they could never do with a jeweler's saw, basically.
And then, I guess because it's not meant for mass production, most of our lasers are meant for mass producing parts. So, when we say stainless steel, this is more for prototyping, right? I mean, just do like a one-off to test it.
I mean, don't use this machine for cutting metal, unless of course you're a jeweler and you're making piles of money with it. This is not meant for cutting metal. If you want a metal cutting machine, there are companies that make those, large format metal cutting machines. I think Stephen can probably talk a little bit about that as well. Could you not?
Yeah, it's nice to see. I don't want to go as far as saying that it's a novelty. I mean, if you need to do that with your machine, then be that as it may. But certainly, I wouldn't consider that a constant use of the machine. No, not at all.
Okay, we got. I'm just showing the video from one of our customers in Toronto. They're a jewelry customer that have the SpeedMarker as well. But there's a question here. In the video, we're seeing cylindrical objects being engraved using both a rotary attachment and laying on the bed. How much of a curve can the unit handle before it needs a rotary attachment?
I can't give the exact figures, but it's first of all, in terms of the videos, a rotary attachment on any curvature is recommended. If you've seen videos of cylindrical objects on a flat table, it's probably our DS technology I spoke about a couple of minutes ago, in which case you wouldn't need a physical rotary. And then the dropout, it's very small, because not only is fiber laser very sensitive to that in the first place, or very, very difficult, but also the lenses we're working with are already got a very long focal length, and the dropout is not as forgiving as you would find on a 2-inch lens on a CO2. The margin is in some cases less than a millimeter, and that's it. So yes, you could play around, but generally any curvature. But in terms of exact figures, you need to look at the Rayleigh factor of the lens, and
yeah, and I'm just showing the video of the new DS. So it's like the virtual rotary, we call it.
I can't wait to get one of these.
Those options are available, so there is a full cylindrical.
Look at that thing go! I mean, people who are doing water bottles full time, this is a game changer. Now, do you know much about this this new technology of ours, Stephen?
Not much more than what's in the video.
Yeah, it's fairly new, and it's fairly new.
In general, it's a we have the X and Y axes in our scan head already, and we're using a optical Z axis as opposed to what we have now in most machines as a mechanical Z axis. So obviously that makes it easier, because the machine can alter its Z position optically and dynamically within a program flow. So it's what we call in a virtual rotary attachment. But you wouldn't be able to do that on a machine without that.
Right. What do you mean by optical Z axis? I mean, is this a aperture, or is it just a moving motorized lens? How does that work?
I think it's just a moving lens. I'm not too sure. I think it's just a moving.
Gotcha.
Once we do the full launch, I think we'll have more info on the direct market. But Stephen, if you want to kind of go into the demo, I got your screen shared. If you want to start, maybe tell us what you want to show us today.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to share my screen here.
It's already shared, Stephen.
Shared?
Just pop up the software. There it is. Yep.
Okay, so this is something very basic I put together, just to more especially to show those that have an idea for a machine like this and haven't considered how much you can actually do with our software. And so this is very basic. It was just a quick program flow I put together. For doing a scan of a barcode, for example, I mean, the machine can take many inputs. I mean, a barcode essentially is just a keyboard. A barcode scanner is just a keyboard. So there's not much to it, but there's so many different inputs that we can have here. So you can imagine this could be a database query. It could be any number of things coming over a TCP stack, or over serial, or some PLC signals that are being sent to the machine from a production plant. So
I normally tell my customers that As far as the software goes on one of these speed markers, I just say yes. You can do basically anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there we've got, I mean, I just found there's a bunch of barcodes there. And this one, I don't know if the camera will see that. It's just got a date
we
and
can
a
see it.
timestamp on it. So I'm just I've put a piece of aluminum in there, and you'll see on my screen the machine's ready to go. So when I execute it, it's waiting for input. And so I can scan that, and it bangs it out. So
You're gonna have to show this like 3 times so we can see all the camera views.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
let me do
That's
it on stainless much slower, then it'll have more contrast for the camera.
So what's the idea here, Stephen? I mean, if like those part marks, if you're in an industrial automation, this kind of facility, you're looking to mark steel plates. I mean, it doesn't have to be that specific type of product with the baggie. I mean, it could just be general barcodes that you're scanning and inputting into the. Right. Okay.
What often happens in a factory environment is, for example, they get a bunch of parts, but they want a barcode or some kind of identification on the component as well. So often the factory does A, and then say a supplier or a subsidiary wants B delineated on the part, whatever this part may be. And so they may have stock and inventory systems that print barcodes. And they may want to put an indelible mark on the component itself and not have to type it all in and just read the barcodes in. So, but that's a barcode. I mean, barcode, QR, data matrix codes.
Just serial numbers in general, like customers
exactly,
companies' internal like certifications on the metal. Actually, we got a good question here from HBA. They're using a 300 for the past year in Corel. Can I take from Corel to the SpeedMarker just as easy?
Yeah.
You got various exports that it supports.
So you can still do the design file in Corel and then push it into.
I think what Doug's talking about is that like he prints from his Speedy, and yes, from the SpeedMarker you can print directly from your Corel Draw as well as a print driver. So you use this software, which I mean, I'm in love with
software. It's just
I'm in love with this software. Like if you've never used this software, come in for a demo and let me show you. It's absolutely a dream to use because you literally can do anything. But yes, you can also just print as a print driver as well.
Just a good point here from Joey. Because I can't afford a Speedy machine and a Galvo machine, I can get a Flex. I can do barcodes or engrave a firearm. So there's always, James, I mean, you can attest to that. There's always that balance. Should I get 2 machines, like a Galvo and a CO2, or should I just get a Flex and have both?
I like both. And I often think about what I would do if I was in the situation of needing a fiber and a CO2. Would I get a Flex or would I get both? And it's hard to say because the Flex is so handy for certain other things, and that's not for this conversation. But I can't answer that because it all depends on what you're actually doing, and that's why we have salespeople. We're not here to push used cars. What our salespeople do are to take your requirements and figure out what the best thing is. I mean, we've had so much experience with this over the years, both the salespeople and techs like Stephen, at seeing other applications for the last 20 years, or in Mike's case, like 175 years, and we can usually figure out what's best for your process. So, a lot
of the times, I guess a customer would come and say, "Okay, I got 10,000 parts I need to mark," and that will justify buying a Galvo machine.
Yeah.
Right for those industrial type of markings.
Mm-hmm. As long as you got a robot arm, you're.
Yeah, you see, that's where you're touching on that, James. The biggest issue, the comparison between the two technologies is that what's in favor of a flatbed fiber, in the case of a Flex, is that there's very minimal loading time. So you can load the table up and leave it, which is great. But with this machine, because it's so fast, it has a lot of handling. And so unless you're going to have a very fast operator or a robot, and so I think it really comes down to what your output is. That's really what it is. I mean, there are applications where you want to engrave on a much larger area than what a Galvo can offer. So,
I mean, I have one customer with a SP 1350, and that's got a pretty big area.
I know. Oh, forgive me, James. I'm sorry. I was just going to say one thing. We were discussing the difference between sort of marking on a speed marker or marking using SpeedMark, say, versus job control. And one of the things I think is the coolest is, as James was sort of alluding to, I think it's the customizability of a software like this. Like we have customers I know in Ontario who talked about building a custom C++ plugin to even sit on top of SpeedMark, so that their operator can just scan their own barcode and it automatically cues in the entire job, exactly what needs to be marked on that piece, that sort of thing. So there's no guesswork, there's no, that sort of thing. You can even code sort of a rudimentary system into SpeedMark, as I understand. It has sort of a
I mean, not even rudimentary. You can do some pretty technical stuff with SpeedMark. I have one customer who, I mean, in manufacturing, you generally don't have skilled programmers or skilled laser people or operators. You have people who are very good at their job, figuring out what's wrong with this part or adding parts or soldering, or like they have other skills. And to have a IT person running the laser, they don't want that. And so I have a customer who does thousands of steel parts every day, and as these parts come in, they have an operator engraving them. And this operator there's no screen on the laser, there's no keyboard, and there's no mouse. So basically, the part comes in, they scan the barcode, and up comes a picture of what the jig is and where the part is on the jig. They place the thing, it automatically focuses, it automatically zaps the part, and they set it aside. They scan the next barcode. It shows them where they put it in the jig. The laser focuses. They press go, and so they have a headless operation, and all the smarts are happening inside of SpeedMark, and they've programmed it to do all this. It reads the barcode. That barcode reads a database which says it's part number X, and part number X has a focal distance of 3.2 inches. It tells the SpeedMarker to move the x-axis to 3.2 inches to project the red dot, projection over where it's going to engrave. Mm-hmm. The operator moves it, pushes the big red button, and it zaps it, and they move on. And so, being able to produce these sort of headless operations or complex UIs, this is all stuff that the SpeedMarker can do.
Well, and I think sort of tying into the question that we had here in the chat about using the Galvo machine. So the fiber machine is sort of a unique, I mean, people who are familiar with our lasers probably will have noticed that the window on the Galvo, and as Stephen was sort of talking about, the specific sort of red enclosure for it is that special fiber enclosure. Because this is a fiber machine, you cannot run it with the door open. This is a laser that you have to be really respectful of, when you're using it. And so, having that ease of use that James was sort of describing there, where the operator can just, scan a barcode and everything is sort of, taken care of for them, so they don't have to worry about, the safety side of things. They just do, what they know they do each and every time, is sort of a nice, peace of mind as well on that side.
Yeah, I'm just showing the ProMarker video. So the ProMarker is this like single open system Galvo head that you can integrate. You can put it in an enclosed safe room or and so on and so forth. So that's available as well. Stephen, sorry, we didn't actually get a chance. I mean, I think you engraved it. Like you did engrave it already, right?
I did.
Yeah. So can you show us that again? Because I don't think. I mean, it went by too fast. If you could open up your software as well.
I mean, we need to have one shot of us explaining what's happening in the software, and then showing. I guess we have two screens now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, let me see here.
It's gonna need like a 3-cam sitcom setup essentially to show. It's
That's
so
right.
fast, blink and you'll miss it essentially.
Okay, now I got the camera just on the steel plate and the software, so you can see both. Yeah, perfect, Don. Try to get it in the middle. That should be good. I think that's good.
And so what all Steven's doing here is he's set it up so that it scans it waits for a scan from the barcode or an enter from the keyboard. Oh, there he's got the scan there.
Yeah.
Once he's scanned it, then the rest of the program can continue. I believe that's right. I believe I'm reading the program right.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to start here with the input box. So the input box, like James is saying, it's waiting for input of any sort. So it's going to be any keyboard input, and a barcode is a HRD device as far as Windows is concerned. So whether I type in there or whether I scan a barcode, it's going to see that as an input, and then whatever gets sent to the input box is going to be loaded into a variable, which you can use elsewhere in the program. And then I've got a text field here, and that is linked to that variable. So whatever gets put in there gets put into that variable, and then the text is going to read that variable. And the barcode is doing exactly the same thing. And then you'll see we've got jump marks here where when it's finished the engraving, so it asks for the variable, it does the text, it does the barcode, and then it jumps to the beginning again. So this instructs you to jump to the top. There's other ways we could do this. You can do, if you wanted a quantity, you could do for while statements. I mean, you can go from very basic to very advanced with the scripting.
And Stephen, can you show us like the power settings and like the different how many times you can go over? I mean, just if you could touch up on that a little bit.
Okay, so I've selected everything because it's all stainless and I want them all engraved for this purpose, engraved at the same power and speed. So I just go to marking here, and much like those that have a Speedy system and using job control, you've also got a material library here, and I don't really use those, so I've just put standard there, and I've defined it over here, speed and the frequency and the power. So I'm going to go full power. I'm marking it very slowly now, and slower than what I need to, is just so we can pick it up on the camera.
And for those of you that have never seen our software before, I mean, the 16 colors that you guys just saw, you can technically, that's for different color settings. So the RGB black, that's whatever's on the artwork file. In this case, it's a text and a barcode, but that's going to be the engraving. But essentially, you can have 16 different settings for 16 different colors on a single job, basically.
And for the people without lasers, the colors do not show up on the.
Actually, I'll show you guys the Mopa at the end. So we do have color marking on stainless steel. I'll show that as well. Sorry, go ahead, Steven.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to trigger the application.
Can you turn off the light? Yeah, I think we're going to try and focus it. It's a small.
Tell me when you're ready.
Actually, you should turn on the light. Sorry, Stephen. You should turn on the light.
Light's better.
Okay. I think we're good to go. Well, almost, Don. If you stop moving the camera, I think we're good.
It's just the reflection. There we
go.
go.
Right. Okay. Stephen, go ahead.
So he scanned the barcode.
I think we're gonna hear a beep. There we go. There we go. Okay. So that's it. I mean, what is that? 2 seconds?
It was It doesn't really. It says at the bottom there, but there's a screen sharing thing.
Oh, that's.
Oh, I see the StreamYard thing.
Yeah.
So how many seconds is it?
It's going to give you the cycle time of the last
item.
It's not going to give you the global time. So this text is very fine. So I'm going to but it's exactly the same. It's the date and the time and a different version of that barcode. I wasn't sure what exact stand they were using there.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Can you put it on the plate again, just so we can zoom in on it? Just right, yeah, right on there. So that, I mean, that's how deep do you think that?
No, it's very. The purpose of that was a mark.
Okay, just a quick mark.
Yeah.
We have a good question here. Engraving a firearm will require a larger area, and the space inside the door perimeter can provide. So I asked about the door being open. So we can actually show you.
Well, that's not a limitation because all of these machines can be ordered with ports. So
pass-throughs.
I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you got pass-throughs that can go through, which would allow for a rifle or something to be passed through. So we have ports available for that, and if that's still a limitation, then you can consider using one of the skeletal systems in a specific room, and an operator wearing goggles. So
I think James, correct me if I'm wrong. The 700. I'm just going to pop this up. The SpeedMarker 700. This frame here. I think there's ones where they come off.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
not come off, but there's just a small door in the.
There's a door.
Side.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can build something to put like a rifle or something. Oh my goodness, my card with the firearm.
Speaking of rifles, so yeah, we do have bigger machines. This is a 1300. We also have a 1600 with a moving Z-axis. Sorry, is it? I don't know if I'm speaking out of term. X-axis. Sorry, a moving X-axis. So it can engrave the entire firearm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this in this application, we would be using it in a place where there's going to be a lot of traffic, so that you can open and close the door, and it's working as a Class 2 laser. What Steven's suggesting is if you don't want any limitations to the size of the part that you're going to be putting in, you have a separate room that has no windows, has a lockable door. And you've got special goggles on so that you can actually work around the fiber laser, because there's, it's dangerous to work with the fiber laser without a door if you don't have glasses on, or special fiber glasses on. And so if you don't want any limitations, you just create some infrastructure in your actual building itself, and then you just have the head. There's no enclosure whatsoever. You mount that head to something that you can move up and down, or a table that you can move up and down to create focus, and you'll be able to run the machine outside of the enclosure.
We have a good comment here. Well, I have to sell my house to buy that. I mean, they're obviously not cheap machines, but I mean, these machines, James, they're for making money. They're production machines. They're
cheap. I mean, a machine is only expensive if you're using it as a toy. I mean, that's just what it comes down to it. If you're only using it to mark things for your friends and family and to build model railroad parts, then yeah, it's so expensive. But if you're actually making money with this machine, and you sit down with a consultant like myself, and we look at the ROI on your business and how we're going to make you money with this machine, how this machine is going to pay you, the investment you make in this is not unlike investing in some fantastic stock on the stock market, except you have the control over whether that stock does well or not. We know these machines have the ability to produce a lot of products, and to do it better than any of the people around you in town who don't have one of these. And we know that we have the support, the people who actually know these machines intimately, to actually be able to come to your shop and be there with you to help you create the money for this machine. So if we're just talking a toy, yes, very expensive. If we're talking an investment, it's a money making machine. It doesn't cost you anything. It actually pays you. So that it's a strange question, but it's a good
Well, I
question.
mean, we always we talk about pricing. People are, it depends, but these are industrial machines for industrial and production applications, and the automation that we're just showing you now, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what these can do.
Oh, yeah.
A good question from Joey: do we use the same exhaust system for the Speedy series and the Galvo series?
Steven?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Sorry, the exhaust
there.
system, is it the same for the Galvo Speedy? And how much exhaust do you need? I mean, if you're doing...
Depends on the application. I mean, this machine, you're doing a lot of metal processing, and you don't want that, especially if you're doing anodized aluminum, that the dust there. So you would want something pretty decent. You wouldn't something too weak, but here we use the same type of Quattro exhaust systems. It's exactly the same. But in terms of how much you need, it really depends on the application. I mean, there's lots of customers that don't use them because whatever they're doing is really just plastic marking, and there's little to no fumes at all. But generally, if you're doing a lot of rifles and anything anodized, you would definitely want a decent extractor plugged in, yeah.
Or any exotic metals too, things with copper, things like that. I mean, it's very important to get the metal dust out of the machine and not back into the operator's breathing air.
Yeah.
Stephen, do we have anything else to show in the demo part of it? I mean, I could talk about the Mopa and the CL a little bit, but if you have anything else you wanted to show in terms of
well, it was just to show I don't know, well, the program flow, the automation aspect. I mean, there's lots to show. But
we could do hours of show on the actual SpeedMark software and how to produce money making programs with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about, I mean, the Mopas itself. Well, if you guys can assist. So, I mean, James or Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about what is a Mopa laser?
That's a good question for Stephen, because I know what a Mopa laser does, but Stephen knows how it works.
Well, it's an oscillating system, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But basically, the applications for this, the problem you have with a standard fiber system is that, especially when it changes direction, is that it's too aggressive, and you get a lot of bubbling and artifacts on plastic. And so with the Mopa laser, in the way it works, especially with an oscillated system, it is gentler on the plastics, and it also interfaces with the plastics with less energy. It is a form of alchemy, really. I mean, yes, it can be done, but it takes a lot of practice, and I think you would need to have a very niche application for it. It is one. I don't like to sell a Mopa because it can do that. Only, I mean, it can do way more than that. But yes, if you have the time to play with your parameters, play with your focal distances, your quantity of passes, etc., then yes, you can do some very interesting color as you anneal that metal, and the color is changing as the metal heats up through the Kelvin scale. So black being, the cooler side of things, right, to the white or washed out ones being longer. Just it's fun. It's a nice science thing to do, but and if there's application for that, great. But it's also it takes a lot of time and practice.
And what about for plastic marking? I mean, what does the Mopa do differently for plastics than for fiber, regular fiber?
The problem with marking plastics is a lot of the plastics don't give a contrast image, or not a sufficient contrast image. So in the case of, say, ABS, a black ABS or even a white ABS, there's pretty decent contrast, and polycarbonates also give very good contrast, but that's about where it is. You don't get especially if you're using certain plastics, for example, plastics used in the food industry, or plastics used in the medical industry, they're different, and they don't mark with these lasers whatsoever. So with Mopa, you get that contrast mark. So again, because of the contact time of the laser beam with the material. So the other plastics with a fiber laser, they tend to put in a contrast additive into these plastics at very small percentages that are still safe for food applications or medical applications. And then you can use a fiber laser and get that white on black or black on white, depending on what chemical or element they've used as a contrast medium.
A doping agent.
Yeah, a doping agent. So
yeah. Usually, titanium dioxide, is it not?
Yeah. Well, that's one of them. I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
But you don't have to. You might not have to use it in the case of a Mopa, or you would be able to reduce. So, I mean, remember, you dealing with a factory that's putting out hundreds of thousands of X product. That doping costs money.
Yeah.
In the long term. So if you can use 50% less of the agents with a Mopa, well, then it makes sense. So that's really what it is. I think it's more what it can do versus going into how a Mopa laser works. I mean, you go onto Wikipedia, because Mopa is a laser technology. It's not a.
It's not our brand. It's just a type of laser.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of good questions here too. So what is the price difference between the fiber and Mopa? So we can't give out pricing online.
Negligible, though.
Sorry?
Negligible.
Well,
negligible difference.
I was going to ask James. I mean, even in percentages, like if you could give them an idea,
just
an extra 10% or
hardly. No. I wouldn't say even a 10% difference. It's not a huge difference. But the Mopas don't come in every power level. So we have a 20 watt which was doing this, and then we have a 100 watt which is. It's a monster.
So the bigger price factor is the actual wattage, not the.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
The Mopa technology is there's not a huge difference. It's whether you need it or not, really.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen, I don't know if you can answer this one. What is the power rating for the Mopa?
Well, like James says, we have.
It's just the 20 watt. Yeah.
100 watt. The pulse energy is 1 millijoule. That's the pulse energy of it. And then the difference with the Mopa is that you can vary the frequency, the pulse repetition rate, which you can't do with the others. The others, I think, run at about 100, whereas the Mopa, I think you can go from 20 up to a certain figure. So you can vary the pulse repetition rate on the Mopa.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and before I guess
not the repetition rate, the duration of the actual pulse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, before we kind of close this off, maybe we could talk a little bit about the CL. So the CL, James, I don't know if you want to just describe what a CL is, what it does, who buys it.
Yeah, I mean it's more than the CL. It's we do have speed markers in CO2. So what you're seeing here is a CO2 Galvo head. So you see, it's the same sort of Galvo head. We don't need the green glass because it's not a fiber machine. We have speed markers in a CO2 format as well. So if you're marking glass, or if you're marking wood, or if you're marking organic things like that, the laser will actually mark it. Whereas you try doing this on a fiber laser, it's just not going to work out well.
So you see a lot of these videos that they do denim, this type of stuff. Like this
fabric is
actually
a big industry for a CO2 Galvo, for cutting fabric and for marking fabric as well. I know there's a lot of fabric people out there with CO2 Galvos.
But I mean, in general, in Canada, I haven't seen a lot of CO2 Galvos. I mean, it's pretty rare, would you say, in the market? I mean, we only have a handful of customers, I think.
It's not rare in the market, because there's some different format Galvos than we produce, but like this format of Galvo, yeah, it's fairly rare, and more so because I don't have one. And so if I had one in my showroom, there'd probably be more out in the market. So it has to do with if I can show you that your application requires this particular product and not a Speedy, then I will suggest this, and I will keep suggesting it until you tell me to go away. Because if I see that you're going to make more money with a CO2 Galvo than you will with a Speedy, then yeah, I'm going to bird dog it until you're sick of hearing from me. Just because that's all I want is for you to make money, really. I'm not successful till you are. But here's a guy who says, you know what? I've got all these big parts sticking up. I need some clearance on my machine. He uses a CO2 Galvo to mark these parts.
Yeah, this particular gentleman is a customer from Halifax, and his name is Jim Glass, and he actually discovered right there. So he engraves. I mean, I thought this was pretty amazing. So he bought the CL specifically. I mean, the other parts that you guys just saw on the wood, that's kind of an extra or bonus. He does like these promo items. He does a bunch of glass printing for bars and stuff, but he does this inside the glass, like you can see here. And what apparently it does, it carbonates the beer for constant
effervescence. Yes.
Yeah, so
that's very cool. I'd love to see that in action.
I actually wanted to do a video project just for that as well, but hopefully that'll come sooner than later. But yeah, there is customers that do CL or CO2 Galvos out there as well. So there's tons and tons of applications for these kind of Galvo machines. I think we're about to. I mean, we're close to the hour mark. I don't know if there's anything else that Stephen or James want to add about specifically for automation. I mean, what do customers want to, like, the biggest questions that they ask when it comes to automation or getting the Galvo in their facility?
Well, I mean, for me, for the customers who are using it with automation, we have people using it. I have one customer who uses it without any humans involved.
Right.
So it's in a super secure cage. The injection molders mold the thing. The robot arm grabs the thing, puts it on the in the machine. The machine zaps the part. The robot arm takes the part out, puts it in a box, and the entire process has to, because it's so secure, there can be no humans touching this part ever, from the injection molder all the way to shipping. Every machine has to be automated, and the SpeedMarker, because it's got the 24-volt PLCs in the back, it can be run by robotic means and without humans ever touching it. And so you can do it piecemeal like these guys are. You're putting the part in, or you can be using it with complete robot production. And so this is where it really shines, because it's really going to build as your business builds. So if you're a startup manufacturer, maybe you're building bicycle parts, and right now you're building, so many parts that you just have a few people working there, and somebody can load the part, a human can load the part and press go. But you expect that in 5 years from now, you're going to be producing too many parts that humans can't do it. You know that you can hook up a robot arm to fill the machine and just keep going all day long, and have it without humans, monitoring it too much.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Stephen, what would you suggest, kind of like as parting words for people that are looking for a Galvo laser or looking to automate their process? Why would they need this type of machine for their manufacturing efforts, or even outsourcing? Like if they have clients that outsource to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the machine's very scalable. So from what we call in skeletal systems to some of those very big ones, the 1600s, they can be, the Trotec range of these machines have been adapted for nearly every industry type. So, and then I think where we win in a big way is the software. The SpeedMark software is a very, very powerful suite, which offers endless possibilities in terms of integration, code base, etc. So it's something to consider. It's not only the fiber aspect and the ability to mark a certain component is great. I mean, that's the power of the laser. But in terms of the software, it really intelligently integrates with your business processes. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like these guys do data plates for different kind of circuit boards. Also, Canadian customer. They actually have a side business where they do promotional items on a Speedy. I think on a Speedy. Yeah, it's one of your guys, right?
Yeah, Ed. He's just across the river here in
So what kind of products does he do, James?
I mean, he's got two sides. One side of his building, he's building, these mobile power supplies and mobile computing devices for very, very harsh environments. And then he's marking that, and then he's got a big, powerful Speedy machine to. Basically, he does a lot of puzzles, custom puzzles and things like that. Ed from Tri-M, and he does a ton of work with this thing.
Very cool. So he would cut it on. So you would cut the metal on the CNC machine, or
no? That would probably be water jet cut. I would imagine. Okay. That's all anodized aluminum, so we can't cut it with this small power laser.
Right. Okay. I guess just a last question before we go. Galvo or Mopa, do we plug them into a 120, 15, or 20 amps?
Depends. I think definitely the more powerful ones I want to put into a 20, but we haven't had any of them trip on a 15 amp yet. So 15, I would say, would be okay, but just check the pre-installation guide for the exact specifics.
My customers, the jewelry customers who are running these things at full power for all day, every day, haven't ever tripped it off of a 110 either. So, whether it's a marking situation or a super powerful, cutting 1 millimeter silver, I've never seen one trip.
Awesome. Well, I think we're at the top of the hour. I really want to thank Stephen and James for being our co-hosts, and Stephen doing that great demo for us. If you guys want, if you're in Canada, well, if you're outside of Canada, go to troteclaser.com, go to the contact page and fill out the form. And one of our subsidiaries or distributors around the world will contact you, depending on the country that you're in. If you are in Canada, we will love to do even a web demo. I know it's COVID. We are open. We are an essential business. You can come in and see the demo. There's no walk-ins. You'd have to actually register with us in the COVID form and whatnot. But if you want to do it from the comfort of your own home, we can actually do these kind of online demos. Web demos specifically to your company. If you want to send us the parts in advance, we can mark them in advance and do this kind of thing as well.
I also have a mobile demo unit.
Oh, that's right.
If you're in British Columbia and you don't mind my ugly mug coming around, of course I'll have a mask on. Then by all means, give me a shout and we can do the demo right at your facility. Also the possibility, if as we get more serious and realize this is going to be a good technology, I can even lend this machine for X amount of time at your facility, so that you can actually try it in a real world situation where you've got it in your line. And yeah, there's my van. We just rolled the thing off.
James in the van. I mean, people keep asking when you're going to do more videos.
Yeah,
James is a busy guy. He doesn't have time for videos.
It's not that I had a hardware failure recently, so we're getting it fixed up though. So it's all good now.
Well, hopefully
there will be lots of new videos coming on that.
Yeah, for sure. So this is James's van. He can actually, if you're in the BC in general, he can. I think you're on the island every couple of months, so he can come to your facility. But yeah, that's his van, a laser inside the van. Right. But yeah, guys, if please leave your questions and comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you, and see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much.